Good morning, dear children. It's me, Rashmi teacher here. Hope you will have a wonderful session ahead. First, we can just revise the portions you had studied earlier. That is, life processes. You all know what is meant by life processes. Life processes are the basic processes in living organisms which are necessary for maintaining their life. That means, without these processes, an organism cannot survive properly. There are main 4 important life processes. They are nutrition, respiration, transportation, and excretion. And these 4 processes are interrelated. If an individual wants to survive smoothly or properly, all these processes should take place in a proper manner. Now first we can discuss about nutrition. As you all know, it's a transfer of source of energy from outside to inside. This transfer of source of energy means what? It's actually the food. That means, so nutrition is a process of taking food by the organism and its utilization by the body for life processes. So, there are main 2 types of nutrition. Autotrophic nutrition. Next one, it is the heterotrophic nutrition. First, we can discuss about autotrophic nutrition. It's a process by which autotrophs take in substances from the outside and convert them into stored forms of energy. That's very important. The definition itself, we could understand that these autotrophs, they take the substances, that means the raw materials from the outside, and convert them into the stored forms of energy. Even though we know that some type of organism, especially the autotrophic organism, their energy need is very less. But still, they produce the food or they prepare the food by the process of photosynthesis. Typical example, green plants. And you already know there are mainly 3 steps in photosynthesis, and the equation also you are familiar with. Now we can move on to heterotrophic nutrition. That means it's a type of nutrition in which organisms depend upon other organisms for food to survive. That means these organisms, they cannot prepare the food by themselves. They either depend on plants or depend on other animals for the survival. There are mainly 3 types of heterotrophic nutrition. They are parasitic, saprophytic, and holozoic. I would like to give more importance to holozoic nutrition now, because we the human beings come under this type of nutrition. So, to see the definition of holozoic nutrition, it can be defined as a method of nutrition which involves the ingestion of some complex organic substances that may be in the solid or the liquid state. That means we are consuming the food. It may be in a solid form or the liquid form. It may be the complex state. It may not be in a simple form. And our body, it cannot utilize these complex organic food materials. So this holozoic nutrition, it involves mainly 5 steps. They are ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation, and egestion. And these 5 steps should take place one after another. That's very, very important. First one, ingestion. That means the simple, the way the method of taking the food, that is ingestion. Taking in complex organic food through mouth opening. Next one, as we said earlier, the food that we are taking is in a complex form. It should be broken down into simpler form. That process is known as what? Digestion. That is, change of complex food into simple form by the action of enzymes. After the digestion, the complex food materials will be converted into simple form. And next step, it is absorption. That is, this passing of the simple soluble nutrients through blood or lymph. Blood you are quite familiar with. Lymph is actually like the blood, but the main difference is that lymph is colorless as it lacks red blood cells. Further details regarding the lymph we will study detail in the next session. After absorption, next step is the assimilation, very important stage. That is the utilization of absorbed food for various metabolic processes. We all know that if somebody asks you a question, for what you are consuming the food, you may say that it's for getting energy. Some may say that it's for the building of the body. Some may say that it's for repairing. Together we can call it's the metabolic processes. Various processes are taking place in our body, and that process is known as assimilation. And the last step after all these processes, of course, waste are produced in the body. It should be eliminated, and that process is known as digestion, that is expelling out the undigested food. I would like to give more stress to the term assimilation. That means how the body is utilizing it. So when we discussed about the nutrition, I already mentioned one important phrase, that is the transfer of source of energy. The food is only a source of energy. It is not the energy. So from this food, how the energy is produced? That's it. From third or fourth and onwards, you have been studying about the important nutrients present in the food that we consume. Carbohydrate, protein, fats, vitamins and minerals. And the carbohydrate is energy-giving food. Protein, we know that, is a bodybuilding. So the carbohydrate is a energy-giving food. So this carbohydrate is a complex food material. When we consume rice, chapati, potato, etc., we get enough carbohydrate. Our body cannot absorb it as such. So the digestion should take place, and this carbohydrate get converted into the simplest form, that is the glucose. So glucose is a source of energy. And the glucose is fully trapped with energy, but it cannot give us energy. If the glucose won't release energy, some chemical reaction should take place in the body. For that chemical reaction to take place, this important ingredient is needed, that is oxygen. And how we get oxygen? When I ask you this question, you say that when we breathe, we are taking the air rich in oxygen. When we breathe out, we release or we expel the air rich in carbon dioxide. This is the only method by which we get the oxygen. So this oxygen, with help of glucose, some chemical reactions takes place and energy is released. And that process is known as respiration. See, respiration is the process by which food is burned in the cells of the body with the help of oxygen to release energy. It takes place in each and every cell in our body. Both this oxygen as well as glucose, both are equally important. Here the food means it is glucose. We supplied with enough food, especially glucose-rich food, but you are not supplied with oxygen. Can you survive or will you get energy? Absolutely no, you will not. If you want to get energy, definitely you need oxygen. At the same time, you are allowed to be outside and you are enjoying large amount of oxygen. But at the same time, you are not provided with food. Will you get energy? No. From this, we will understand the importance of both the glucose as well as the oxygen in the production of energy. And it takes place in each and every cell. And through respiration, carbon dioxide is released and water also. Water, of course, large amount of water is again utilized by our body. But carbon dioxide is a waste material. And the blood has greater affinity towards, or attraction towards this carbon dioxide. So it should be expelled outside. So it takes place continuously. The oxygen is taken in and the carbon dioxide is given out. And that process is known as what? Breathing. Before you know this definition, if I ask you, tell me what is respiration? You may say that it's taking in of air, oxygen and giving out of carbon dioxide. So there is quite breathing only. Breathing and respiration, both are different. Breathing is only a part of respiration. If breathing does not take place, there is no scope for respiration. So breathing and respiration, both are different. Respiration is a process by which food is burnt in the cells of the body. Here the food means glucose with help of oxygen to release energy. Last year, the lesson cell, you studied about different types of cell organelles that are seen in the cytoplasm. One of the important cell organelle is the mitochondria. I know that still you remember that term. Mitochondria is known as the powerhouse of the cell. Why it is known as the powerhouse of the cell? Because energy is released in the mitochondria, is providing power to the body, energy to the body. So it is known as what? Powerhouse of the cell. The energy released during respiration is used to make ATP molecules. Then what is this ATP? It is adenosine triphosphate. From what it is formed? It is from ATP molecules. What is ATP? It is adenosine diphosphate, an inorganic phosphate. So from what this ATP is formed? It is formed from adenosine diphosphate and one inorganic phosphate. Secretion ATP plus phosphate. What is released? ATP. That is it. Energy is stored in the cells in the form of ATP molecules. It is continuously formed, as I told you earlier. Millions of cells are there in our body, and in each and every cell, this energy production is taking place. When the body needs energy, or when the cell needs energy, what happens, you know? This ATP is get broken down in the presence of water. There's importance of water there to form ATP and energy is released. That's it. First, the energy released during respiration is used to make ATP molecules. That is adenosine triphosphate from what? From ATP molecules and inorganic phosphate. And it is stored. The cell it is stored. Whenever the cell needs energy, when our body needs energy, this ATP is broken down in the presence of water to form ATP and energy is released. See, ATP in the presence of water, ATP plus energy. Now we can move on to two types of respiration are there. When I say these two types, definitely one question will arise in your mind. Just see what it is. There are two types of respiration. They are aerobic and anaerobic respiration. What are they? They are aerobic and anaerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration, as the term indicates, is a respiration that takes place in the presence of oxygen. Of course, anaerobic respiration is opposite of it. Respiration takes place in the absence of oxygen. So as I told you earlier, at least some of you have in your mind, respiration means it's the breaking down of glucose in the presence of oxygen. But here, again we are telling, one type of respiration, it does not require oxygen. How is it possible? Then if oxygen is not there, how will this organism get energy? This is a genuine question. Just let me explain it afterwards. First we can move on to aerobic respiration. This aerobic respiration, it produces more energy. it takes place in majority of the multicellular organism or almost all multicellular organism. Some unicellular organism also this aerobic respiration takes place. Whenever we need more energy, because as far as these organisms are concerned, example, human beings or birds or etc., they're always very vibrant and so they need more energy. In such organisms, aerobic respiration takes place. And the end products are carbon dioxide, water and energy. In aerobic respiration, glucose is converted into pyruvate. Glucose, it's a 6-carbon molecule. This pyruvate is a 3-carbon molecule. That's it. So the first step in aerobic respiration is a conversion of 6 molecule of glucose into 3 molecule of pyruvate or pyruvic acid. And it takes place in the cytoplasm. And second step, the oxygen is very important in the second step. In the presence of oxygen, this pyruvate, that's a 3-carbon molecule, is converted into carbon dioxide, water and energy. That takes place in the mitochondria. That's very important. So the first step in aerobic respiration is that in aerobic respiration, glucose, this is 6-carbon molecule, is converted into pyruvate. That's a 3-carbon molecule and it takes place in the cytoplasm. First step in the cytoplasm. There is no need of mitochondria for the first process. Second step, it takes place in the mitochondria because oxygen is very much needed there. So this pyruvate is converted into carbon dioxide, water and energy in the mitochondria. Now you can just see the equation. Glucose converted into pyruvate. First step takes place in cytoplasm. Second one, in mitochondria, absolutely oxygen is needed. Products are carbon dioxide, water and energy. Carbon dioxide, our body doesn't need it. It should be eliminated. Through the process of breathing, we are expelling out this carbon dioxide. Next, water, our body needs water. We discussed already about it. ATP is stored in the cell. When our body needs energy or cells need energy, the ATP gets again broken down into ADP in the presence of what? Water. And so many other activities also takes place in the presence of water. And energy, of course, the main thing that we need. Next, we can move on to the anaerobic respiration. So, this aerobic respiration, they always releases more energy. Here 38 ATPs of energy are released. 38. But here, in anaerobic respiration, only minimum 2 ATPs of energies are released. From this, we could understand the difference in the release of energy in both these type of respiration. When we compare these two, we will easily understand it. And in the case of this anaerobic respiration, 2 types it can take place. Another term we can give this for this anaerobic respiration, that is fermentation also, another term. And in this case, anaerobic respiration, as we discussed already, respiration always needs oxygen. But in situation, we do not need oxygen. It is not purposefully the organism, they do not need oxygen. But due to some situation only, they are forced to respire anaerobically. First, we can discuss about the muscle cells. We can move on. Muscle cells, they're always doing heavy exercises and all. That time, our oxygen demand is getting more. Or we need more oxygen. Our body is asking for more and more oxygen. But unfortunately, the oxygen supply is not increasing. But our body needs more and more oxygen. Finally, what will happen? This muscle cell, the lack of oxygen is there, but still they need to work. That situation, what they do? They will respire anaerobically. Continuously, if they are respiring anaerobically, what is produced there? Lactic acid. Normal respiration, the products are carbon dioxide, water is there. But here, no water is released, no carbon dioxide is released, only lactic acid. It's quite acidic as a term. You know it is lactic acid, acidic. So the acidicity of this muscle increases because of this accumulation of this lactic acid. So what will happen? If the muscle produces lactic acid, our muscle feel pain. That means muscle cramp. It is because of this lack of oxygen. Or that time, even though oxygen is present, but is insufficient for our muscle cells to produce energy. But they are forced to do it. Such a situation, more amount of lactic acid get accumulated in the muscles. So it may result in muscle cramp. So this muscle cramp can be cured after taking rest for some time. It's very important thing. Or when you massage that particular area, or after taking a hot water bath. Different methods we can adopt it. When massage that area, of course, that time you are not doing, when we are taking rest after this, you are not doing anything. So the oxygen supply is there. Our bodies or your body's need for oxygen is less. That time what happens, you know? The oxygen flow will become in a proper manner. Then finally what happens? Complete breakdown takes place and the carbon dioxide and water is released. Or hot water massage also. When we apply hot water or when we apply the oil and all, you are just speeding up or accelerating the blood circulation. So different methods, no, we can reduce or we can overcome the muscle cramp. So this equation to explain what happens in muscle. So first step, same, common for the aerobic as well as what anaerobic respiration. That is glucose, presence of oxygen in cytoplasm, 3 molecules of carbon, that is pyruvate. Second step is different. That in muscle cells, absence of oxygen, or of course, we can lack of oxygen also. The product, lactic acid plus energy. Of course, energy is released. If energy is not released, there is no need for respiring anaerobically. But of course, that person can feel the muscular fatigue, muscle pain. Because this lactic acid is not accumulating it. That's the reason why. Just observe this video. See what the person is doing continuously. If he is doing continuously, definitely his body needs or his muscle needs more energy.
Start working now. So lift them up. Start rotating the body.
Such a situation, his body needs what? More energy. So that person's muscle respire anaerobically. Next we can move on to the other type of anaerobic respiration that takes place in yeast. You all know or familiar with the yeast. It's a fungus, of course. And we use yeast at home for preparing appam and all. In the bakeries, they are using it for preparing bun, bread, etc. Making the dough fluffy and very soft and all. And in the beverage, they are using for preparation of beer, wine, etc. In different ways, we are using the yeast. Yeast also is a microscopic organism and absence of oxygen. First step, it's just common or it's just similar to the aerobic respiration. That is the conversion of glucose into 3 molecules of carbon, that is pyruvate. Second step, that is the absence of oxygen. What is producing it? What it produces is ethanol, carbon dioxide and energy. Ethanol, it is an ethyl alcohol. You can easily check it. We'll get granules of yeast or powdered yeast from the grocery shop. And you can just take half glass of lukewarm water and add 1 teaspoon of yeast to it. Add 1 or 2 spoons of sugar. Stir it properly. Keep it aside for 3 to 4 hours. After the 3 or 4 hours, you just open and see the color of the liquid changes. And you could smell the smell of alcohol. And the gas evolved from it is this carbon dioxide. And we can directly use it for the preparation of appam at home. And for wine preparation, beer preparation, this beverage, they are using it. And that process is known as what? Fermentation. So anaerobic respiration has got another term, that is the fermentation. Just see what happens there. Equation to see how this anaerobic respiration takes place in yeast. Glucose changing into pyruvate. First step, common. Next step, absence of oxygen, ethanol, carbon dioxide and energy. But here also the energy produces very less, as I told you earlier. Only minute quantity of energy is released. If oxygen is there, of course, more amount of energy can be released. But here, it is not. See, what happened? This bread rising. You can see that. So inside this dough, this carbon dioxide, it is rising like anything. See, it is because of the carbon dioxide is trapped inside the dough. Carbon dioxide is trapped. So this carbon dioxide starts to what? Rise, and the dough become what? Fluffy. When we keep it in the oven to bake it, when we heat it, what will happen, you know? The carbon dioxide tries to escape from it. So this is the reason why we could see small holes in the surface of the bread, because it is a carbon dioxide. In the dough, when we keep it aside for 3 or 4 or 5 hours, the carbon dioxide gets released, but it is trapped inside the dough. It cannot escape from it. So this dough becomes what? Fluffy and fluffy. When we keep it for baking, again the heat is increasing. This carbon dioxide is again, the gas is more releasing more and more quantity. Finally, what will happen, you know? It tries to escape from it. So we could see what? Small holes on the surface of the bread. So now we can see the common equation for the breakdown of glucose by various pathways. First step is common for all the three. That is for aerobic and for anaerobic. First step, glucose converted into pyruvate. That means glucose, the formula C6H12O6. This is 6 carbon molecule. It gets converted into 3 carbon molecule, that is the pyruvate. And it takes place in cytoplasm. Even if it is in aerobically respiring organism or anaerobically respiring organism, the first step takes place only in cytoplasm. And along with pyruvate, a small amount of energy, because oxygen is there in certain situations. So of course, a small amount of energy is also released. Second step is different for these three. In aerobically respiring organism, it takes place in mitochondria. The products are carbon dioxide, water and energy. In the case of muscle cells, lack of oxygen, lactic acid plus energy. In yeast, absence of oxygen, there is no oxygen there. Because the carbon dioxide is trapped, so there is no scope for oxygen to enter there. So, what's happening there? The products are ethanol, ethyl alcohol is produced, plus carbon dioxide plus energy. So, when you're asked to write the answer for this question, we're supposed to write this common equation. That means the first step is common. You're not supposed to repeat it. The second step is different for different one. Or this three. So you can just mention it. First step common, glucose, 6 carbon molecule. You're not supposed to mention that 6 carbon molecule. Just for information only. Now I am telling this. Glucose converted to 3 carbon molecule. That is the pyruvate. First, aerobically respiring organism. That is in the presence of oxygen in mitochondria. Products are carbon dioxide plus water plus energy. Second, lack of oxygen. That takes place in muscle cells. Products are lactic acid plus energy. In yeast, that is the fermentation, absence of oxygen, products are ethanol, carbon dioxide and energy. Now, we can just revise the portions or topics that we have discussed now. Beginning with the life processes, we can just revise the processes that are very much needed for an organism to survive. 4 processes are there: nutrition, respiration, transportation and excretion. Nutrition is a transfer of source of energy from outside to inside. Then 2 types: autotrophic and heterotrophic. Autotrophic, green plants, they prepare the food by themselves. Heterotrophic, the organism, they depend upon other organisms for their survival. 3 types are there: parasitic, saprophytic and holozoic. Holozoic, 5 steps are there: ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation and egestion. And we, the human beings, come under which group? We come under heterotrophic nutrition. That they another section, that is holozoic. Next, we discussed about how the food that we consume result in the production of energy. The glucose that we consume cannot produce energy as such. So, with the help of oxygen, that process is applicable in our body. So, that is respiration. It is a process by which the glucose gets broken down into energy, water and carbon dioxide in the presence of oxygen that takes place in the cell. We can call it as what? Cellular respiration also, because it takes place in the cell. So we can call it as what? Cellular respiration. And 2 types of respiration are there: aerobic respiration and anaerobic. It's a very, very important question for the examination. You're asked to differentiate these 2, or you may ask to say the features of these 2, but it's very, very important. Aerobic takes place in the presence of oxygen. Example, almost all organisms respire aerobically. Anaerobic respiration takes place in the absence of oxygen. Almost the unicellular organism, typical example, fungi, they respire anaerobically. And the main difference of these 2 is that aerobic respiration can release more amount of energy. That's up to 38 ATPs of energies are released. Anaerobic respiration, they produce only 2 ATPs of energy. So, huge difference is there in the production of energy. From this also we could understand the importance of oxygen in the production of energy. Even though some organisms can respire anaerobically also, they need only less amount of energy. If any organism need more amount of energy, definitely they need to opt for aerobic respiration. And equations also we discussed. It's a common for aerobic as well as anaerobic. Anaerobic, we discussed about 2 different conditions. First one in muscle cells. When a person is doing heavy exercise, a body needs more oxygen, but supply is not that much. Such a situation, it respires anaerobically. As a result, lactic acid gets accumulated in the muscles. It may result in muscle cramp. Equation is glucose get converted into pyruvate. It can convert it into what? Lactic acid and energy. Another example of anaerobic respiration, that is fermentation, that takes place in yeast. Yeast is a fungi. Yeast, first step is common for these 2. That is, glucose get converted into pyruvate. Then it can be converted into ethyl alcohol or ethanol plus carbon dioxide plus energy. Hope it is clear. Thank you. Have a nice day.